It's Around the House. When it comes to remodeling and renovating your home, there is a lot to know, but we've got you covered. This is Around the House.
Welcome to Around the House with Eric G. This is the Pro Insider Special. This is where we talk about all those things for the residential construction trade. Maybe you're a designer, contractor, framer, anything out there in our trades, whether you're selling tile or flooring or roofing, this show is for you. Today I wanted to talk about a hot subject to me that's happening about right now, just because of the last couple years we've had. Let's talk a little bit about burnout. And burnout is something that can happen to you as an individual. It can happen to your team with the people below you. And it is something that can be hellaciously toxic to a company, because it can affect everything from people's health, their attitudes, all of it, productivity. So let's talk about some of the ways that burnout happens to ourselves, our team, our crew, all of that. First off, if you're a company out there where you've been shorthanded for 18 months, 24 months, everybody's working 8 or 10 hours of overtime a week, and that's just the way it's always been, and they're working 50, 60-hour work weeks, burnout is natural to happen. So if you think about that, just that extra time, extra hour, not enough downtime, and quite frankly, not enough fun, that is how burnout happens. Now, once the burnout starts to happen, people get tired, they make mistakes, which costs you as your company. You might lose an employee because they're exhausted and they just want some time off. And depending on your company culture, you could have other issues where they don't feel like they can take the time off because you make them feel like they're being let down, or they just feel that way on their own. So some of those challenges are what you have to be careful with, because any of these things can ruin some of your best employees or even yourself. So let's talk about some of the things that I have done in the past with my crew, my team, and myself to stop that burnout from happening. Make sure your team understands their work schedule. If they have a mental goal of being out the door by 4 o'clock and you're keeping them till 8, that adds stress. That added stress adds to the burnout. So realistic time schedule for that is good. Now, making sure that they have some days off where they can do things on their own is important too. If they're working 10 days straight, man, make sure they get 3 or 4 days off. Make that work. So just make sure people are rested and make sure they're healthy. Now, some of the things that cause burnout too is the attitudes within the company. Maybe there's a conflict within your organization. I tell you what, I've worked with some family-run companies that on the outside seem wonderful. And these things had dads, they had kids. And as an employee, it was a nightmare to watch. You had the dad running around with a heavy hand, running around going, hey, we're going to do it like A, B, and C. He was the owner of the company, majority owner of the company. He'd run around, man with the iron fist. He would leave. Kids were running the company. And they were always, well, do it this way, but just don't tell dad. And it put the employees in such an area where they were working hard. There were a lot of good people in that organization. And you could finally see everyone bail out of there, including the kids, because it just received and went to critical mass. And that was a company culture problem where people worked hard. They didn't get enough breaks. There wasn't enough team building. And quite frankly, there wasn't enough fun. The management team there had no communication back and forth. It was horrific. So fix that communication within the company. Make sure everybody's on the same page. Have some fun. Maybe it's a Friday afternoon barbecue every couple of weeks in the summertime. Maybe it's everybody out on a Thursday night going out bowling or Top Golf or wherever you're going. Axe throwing. Have a good time together. Create some downtime for your organization. Because I know there's companies out there right now that are in the heating and cooling, electricians, framers, roofers. They are trying to squeeze in as many clients as they can handle because everyone wants to take advantage of this boom time. But the problem is you're going to burn through people like matches. And there's not the people out there to replace them. So think of ways to show appreciation, give your employees rest, and more importantly, make sure they fully understand how appreciated they are. And listen to what they have to say. You have to be their best friend. But if they're sitting in a meeting and they're falling asleep at 8 o'clock in the morning, see what you can do to fix that. Maybe they need to take a half day, go home and rest and get refreshed. If that happens on a Tuesday, do you want them to work out the rest of the week at 50% speed, or do you want to send them home for a couple hours and get some good night's rest, chill out, maybe just be with themselves and their family and come back the next day and be fully ready to go again? That's something you got to consider with many of your people. And now these rules also work with just homeowners. Are you working on a project around the house that you're burned out on? Sometimes it's good to walk away from it if you're one of the people that are listening to the show that might not be working in the trades. So taking that break, having a little bit of a rest, I have to do it. You know, I do this show every single week. We don't do best ofs generally. I can't think of the last time we did one. But these are things that even I have to work more on to make sure, well, I do a better job of taking care of myself with that. So everybody out there, make sure you get enough rest. Make sure that you're eating well, healthy. That sleep is going to be key, and a little mental break. Even if it's a vacation, even if you're getting in the car going someplace, do something fun where you can uncouple your brain from work and do something. That, to me, is something I got to work on. It's probably my biggest challenge professionally, is turning off my head and enjoying myself and not be thinking about what's coming up next or what's right around the corner. So something to think about. Man, we got a fun show coming up this weekend on Around the House with Eric G. and Caroline B. We are going to be talking about ways to save energy. How's that electricity bill going to be looking coming up in the coming months with summertime? And then we're going to be talking later on in the show with Jeff Devlin, my buddy from Stonehouse Revival, which premiered here on the 7th on DIY Network. Their new season's coming up, so you don't want to miss that as well. We'll be talking to him in an in-depth interview as well for you contractors out there. We're going to be talking about the bid process and dive into a little bit of that in the middle of that conversation. So you don't want to miss that discussion with Jeff, because we'll be talking contracting as well. All right, everybody, have a great rest of the week. Stay cool out there. All you on the East Coast, stay safe with that hurricane tropical storm cruising up the East Coast. And we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks for listening to Around the House.
Somewhere unseen and undiscovered, anywhere beyond the mean. Life is a love song, let's be lovers. We're out